Hey y'all, welcome back to the Back Porch Studio. We're here for another great interview with the one and only Miss Strawberry Wine herself, Deana Carter. How are you, Deana?
Good. Casual.
It is so we're so glad to have you here. It's such an honor. How was getting to Texas?
Amazing.
Everything was good?
Yes, it's bluebonnet season,
It
so
is.
Everything is so pretty.
Yep.
Except you almost crash because everybody will just pull over and get out of their car, which was crazy.
Yep.
But yes, the weather's been beautiful, and the hillside's beautiful, and the area's just great.
So have you got to be here before during bluebonnet season, or is this your first time to see bluebonnets?
I'm sure we have been, but just... that was like big bus, and you're not paying attention with tinted windows and everything. And now we're driving to all these gigs and just soaking it in and taking in the town. Like in Brenham, we've been hanging out and just the local businesses and meeting local people and having great conversations. Everybody's been so kind, so we've been having a big time.
That's great.
It's a good community.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a really
We keep saying... because we love Florida, but we're like, we could live here. We don't say that very often. It's like, man, this is really nice.
It does have a very hometown feel to it. I mean, it's odd. You do get that in most states. They're going to have their pockets, where it has those good small towns. But I've just been back only 5 months, and it was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Getting to experience exactly what you're talking about, coming back home. And just a great community.
Very impressed with how they just treasure the nostalgia. They keep the original, like the foundation of things. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, whatever store, whatever establishment, they honor the historical side, but they're very current, and modern in what the offerings are and just the business that they run. It's just been really impressive. So
great.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to have you. So are we your first stop on your Texas tour?
Yes, you are. We've got 5 shows in Texas, so we're doing 2.
Yes.
2 of them are here, so that's exciting because we
That's
get to
very
stay in
exciting.
one place for a few days. So that's been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it nice. Well, we're excited to have you here again, and I was so excited. Jacob and Tony have been doing all the interviews, and when we saw that, when I heard you were coming, I was like, Mama is trumping y'all. So I want to do this one. So I've been doing a lot of reading, and then, so the one thing that I always, that Jacob and I were talking the other day, and so when the album came out, that Did I Shave My Legs for This, okay? I had a blue Taurus car.
Nice, yes.
Yep, and that CD player, I'm pretty sure that CD could have been just stuck in it because that's pretty much all that played in it. I mean, it just was one of my favorites.
Thank
so
you.
just know that.
It was a soundtrack to the part of my childhood for sure.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But before that, I mean, just knowing that came way far in your career.
Oh my goodness. This is our 25th anniversary of the record.
Congratulations.
So I can guess how old you are, but that makes me feel really old, and I'm not that old.
You're not.
No, I'm so grateful. It's 25 years, and we're going to do a cool re-release towards middle end of the year. So the last quarter we're coming up. Universal's been great. It was Capitol Records, but now they're Universal, and we're collaborating on a collaboration that we're going to put out towards the end of the year, and just do something really special with it, which is just great, with some other artists and that helped me along the way and influenced me, and include them in what's going on. I'm a very grateful person. I don't forget who was supportive and helped push things, push that ball up the hill.
That's why you're still here. I mean, that's such a key to success, to long-term success.
Well, it takes a village. It really does, and there are a lot of people that worked hard and contributed.
Speaking of that, you came from a musical family. Your dad, right?
Yep. Fred, my dad, was a guitar player, and he was an artist, and he did all of that, but he was mainly known as one of the A-Team guys, played on all these records in Nashville, and he was in the Dylan Cash and the Nashville Cats exhibit at the Hall of Fame. That they've got a digital running one now online, and a permanent thing in the Hall of Fame for those guys. And they worked 10, 2, 6, and 10 sessions back in the day.
Oh my God! So he's a session player.
Oh yeah, and he went on. I think he was one of the first ones to go double scale, like to set the trend because they were working so much. He tells a great story, or told a great story of trying to break in Nashville and how hard it was back then because Grady Martin and all these great, Chet Atkins and, they all had them market cornered, you can imagine. And they weren't very welcoming. Nashville still, it's gotten better, but even when I was growing up, it was like there was a group, and if you broke through, it was a miracle.
No doubt.
And I know you can know that community. Nashville's an amazing community, but they have a high criteria requirement for musicians, and they should. Always have. And anyway, he was having a hard time breaking in when he first got there because he came from the Louisiana Hayride.
Okay.
And anyway, he was at a steakhouse with my mom, and he said Chet Atkins walked in and walked up to their table, and he said, "Fred, I want you to get your calendar out." It was on Christmas, I think, or New Year's Eve. It was one of the holiday nights, and he said, "This next year, you just go on a book every day because we're going to let you in. You're in."
Wow.
Or whatever. It was just like coming from Chet Atkins, it was a big deal.
Golly.
And from that moment on, he just had such a unique style. He was very R&B, blue. He's a Delta, feel guy.
Sure.
But he was a virtuoso player. My great-grandfather was a fiddle player. He came from a musical family. We talked about that. And I think he was playing the fiddle at 2 without any lesson. He could hear every note and play everything. Any instrument, but he loved the guitar. And he ended up playing on, like, Bob Dylan, Lay Lady Lay, the Skyline record, and all the Simon & Garfunkel records, the lead guitar on the Boxer and all that stuff.
That is amazing.
Yeah, because he just had his own, he was, I guess you'd say hoeing his own row.
Sure.
And doing his own thing, and that sound. Paul Simon loved my dad. And Bob Dylan, all those people, Muddy Waters, he played bass on Muddy's records.
Did you get to meet all those people? I mean, growing up?
I did, some. I ended up doing some shows with Bob Dylan.
Wow.
Like later, it's been about 10 years ago, but, and he just, I'll tell the story in the show, but he just came up and kissed me on the mouth and was like, "Did I shave my legs for this?" And I was going, "Oh my God," because you hear stories about him maybe not being so warm.
Yeah.
And he just...
he was pretty warm.
He just gobbled me up. I was
Good
like,
Lord.
"That's cool."
Yeah, that's a good story.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
And just so many stories of... generationally, and all those people that love my dad just really embraced me and took me in, and
but that was later, right? Because you had trouble breaking in early.
I did. I used to. I was a rock and roll girl. I knew country and gospel.
Now that I didn't know that.
See my T-shirt?
Well, I can see.
But I could. My grandparents were, my grandma led music in the church, the Baptist church in Winsboro, Louisiana. And all my aunts and uncles, I had twin aunts that played piano and organ. They were Betty Joyce and Bobby Loyce.
Oh, boy.
And,
I love that.
That's country.
I love that.
12 aunts and uncles, whatever, just everybody was in, the whole choir had my blood running through their veins. Like, you found a harmony part, or you had to do the dishes or whatever, it was like, singing. But, so very musical growing up, and it was rooted in gospel, but country also. And I don't know, just being a teenager, I was so drawn to Journey and Aerosmith and Bread, though. Like David Gates, I call it make out rock. I was just a sucker for make out rock. It was like my favorite thing. And I mean, but what it was the Bee Gees.
Yeah. Bee Gees were the best.
Artists that would write their own songs and do it in a way where the melodies would just like rip your guts out, you know, or make you want to party or whatever it was. But the writing was what I always loved. And I was always drawn to that like my dad. So when I really I guess country got my attention when he was working with this new artist, because he worked with a lot of artists. John Anderson was one that he loved.
Wow.
And helped John.
So he kind of helped other artists get their start.
He had such a soft spot for artists that were writers and unique and all that.
John's definitely unique. And vocal is just one that you can't duplicate.
I think they started working together when John was 19.
Wow.
And he was roofing and doing his thing. And I was a little kid. But John gave the eulogy at my dad's funeral and was just we were all a wreck. He just did such a great job, and he loved my daddy like his brother.
Right.
Wow.
But anyway, I was like trying to think. I think I was about 14, and this guy was in the living room singing. You know, in our dad's little studio at the house, and he was singing. And my job was like to bring the coffee and the cream. You know, the waitress that I am, like from a young age, I was trained to come out with all the stuff and treat whoever was there. And this guy's voice, I was preparing whatever I was going to take out there, and I was just like, golly, this guy can really sing. And I knew about Dolly Parton was like someone who influenced me as a girl, but I was just blown away. And so I walked in there, and it was Randy Travis.
Wow.
And he was doing demos for my dad, and he was helping him just sing the song or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, because he's this tiny, he's this little guy, and his voice just floored me. I was so floored by his singing. So that's when I really started paying attention in the early 80s to Randy. And
you said you were like 14 at that time?
I think so, yeah. I guess so. Like early teens.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, this guy, because he wasn't writing the songs at the time, but that's when the first time I heard a delivery where you could interpret something that you didn't write. So it just made me appreciate the whole picture at that point. And I started paying attention, And then those were great band years for country, but that were reflective of rock, like Shenandoah and
Shenandoah, back in those days.
Those bands.
That's my soft spot. Is that that Shenandoah?
Oh man.
It's that era of country that really sits for me as one of the better ones.
Yeah.
But it's just because the harmonies were on point. I mean, the band was. It was just crazy in that time how good it was.
It was so good, and it has stood the test of time. I
sure.
feel like, it's just wonderful to be connected to a genre that holds its form. Even in the trends of what happens. And coming from that era between the 80s and 90s, that is like a 20-year span that is, to me, timeless.
Oh, yeah.
And I can say that about some, I could say that about Earth, Wind, and Fire and some of the other, other genres of music too. But it was just a time that I feel like, I don't know, it was just a good time to be. I think it was because everybody was welcome. Like, it was so diverse that it wasn't even that as cookie cutter as some genres can be.
Sure.
And all of them do it where they mimic the last hit or whatever. It was just a brief moment in time where they encouraged uniqueness.
I guess that's why. It does show. I guess that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
Well, it explains so much. Now, I was like, so when I listened to The Chain, the whole album, I was like, what made her pick those songs? And you just explained exactly what made you pick those songs.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, you kill I'm Not Lisa.
I got chills when you just said that.
I mean,
so much. Oh man, thanks.
That song, as someone who sings, is got to be one of the hardest songs.
Oh yeah.
To sing as a vocalist, because it's just one of those that has been sang again so many times.
Yeah.
And it's a simple song.
Yeah.
Really, lyrically.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult, but you kill that song.
Thank you.
It is beautiful. And then Swingin'.
Oh.
Johnny Anderson.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean that whole album to me is just amazing. And you get to sing with so many other artists. Willie Nelson.
Yeah. That was it's that record I want more people to hear that record because it was something. It was like the pinnacle thing for me to do with artists that my dad had worked with, and he was ill, but he was still able to play and work. It was before he passed away, so I knew it was timely that we needed to do it soon.
Well, it did not get enough recognition in my opinion. It is a great album.
Oh my gosh, that is one of my favorites, and then doing the Dolly Love Is Like a Butterfly track with her.
Yes.
Because I got to produce that record. I've co-produced my first two records, and we didn't get credit back in the day. Oh. But Jimmy Bowen signed me at Capitol, and he told me, he said, you know what you want. I know your dad, you grew up in the studio, you know what you want. You write these songs that other people aren't going to quite know how to maneuver as well as you are, and you need to co-produce this. So he made me keep a notebook, and he paid me like you would get paid.
Yeah.
And I did, and I had to turn in all that. I did all the union sheets. I did worked really hard. I did the first record with Bowen, and then when he left Capitol, we brought in Chris Farron to help us finish and bring in we had a new label head, and you bring in new songs, and you have to be inclusive of the new regime and all that stuff. So we did a remaking of the Shave record, and we kept half the original, and we added half new, which is when we got Strawberry Wine, and we danced in some outside songs.
Wow.
That I brought those two in because I'm like, if I'm going to sing out other people's music, it has to be something that I lived. And this song in particular is somehow Matresa Berg is she is a worm in my brain who has lived my life. And, so the production, sadly I didn't get credit for the Shave record, but I worked my butt off. And I'm so proud that sound, and you can carry it through to the second record. You can, I hope, hear the continuity of my production heart, through whatever it is that I've done. But
that's such a skill. Aside from being able to sing and play and everything else, what an amazing skill that you have to be able to produce your own music.
Thank you.
That's such a crazy thing.
When we're writing, that's how I hear, is in layers, and I could, as a very young child, pick out what the 12-string was doing, and if there was if it was a steel guitar or a dope, whatever I've just grew up in the studio, so the difference.
Yeah.
But that chain record is what I was going to say. Working with Dolly Parton and Christopherson, and flying to New York and trying to get to Connecticut to get Willie on. I could tell stories about this for hours.
Y'all go download that.
Yeah, get that record.
It's amazing. I hope you do a lot of those tonight because that is, I'm telling you, it's worth the download, y'all.
Yeah. Well, my dad produced the first version of Help Me Make It Through the Night with Sammy Smith.
Oh.
I do that song.
She does that song herself.
Isn't that amazing?
Favorites. It's just, it's timeless.
Totally. That, and so her version was one that my dad did on her, so that's why we had Christopherson and I got to do that together. But Dolly, I have to brag. I mean, we all know how amazing she is. I feel like Dolly is so amazing that I don't think, it's almost like you can't get any higher than how amazing she is. But when I was listening to her warm up, I was in tears just because the world still hasn't heard, like, it blew my brain out of my head, like, just how unbelievable her voice is.
Still.
She was scatting and doing all of this bluesy. I mean, Whitney Houston, who did the most amazing job on I Will Always Love You, and Dolly will tell you, Dolly blew her out of the water for what she would, just her little warm-up routine and stuff. I just couldn't believe it, that I was sitting there in the presence of that.
Wow.
It was
So
crazy.
you actually got to, it wasn't like their parts recorded before, you were actually there with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, I will tell you, Jessie Coulter sent hers to me because I think she had some health issues. Mm-hmm. So we got hers done. And Paul Simon did a guitar track, and Harper, his son, sent those to me. So we got those sent in and mixed. But Dad and I were in the studio for George Jones.
Wow.
When he was singing, and we were sitting on the soundboard just swinging our legs while George was singing, and he kept looking at me, and
so amazing.
as long as my dad had been in the business working with everybody in the world, he was like a little child with me, just looking at me going, isn't this killer? He's like, this is freaking awesome. And I was going, I know. Insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So thank you for bringing that up, because I forget to talk about that record, how special it was to us, and what a great job
Well, it conveys.
all those people did.
It conveys.
Thank you.
It was pretty special.
Thank you.
Are you still doing quite a bit of writing?
I have. I'll tell you this: when we moved to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID,
Yeah.
the grand lockdowns, I was walking around. I started writing these crazy beach songs.
Yeah.
Which I've never done.
Okay.
I mean, everything for me has been about a break of your heart,
Right.
So I thought, if I was in a beach band, I was started trying to challenge myself. What kind of song would I write, And I wrote some of these crazy songs that were sort of Jimmy Buffett, somewhere between, Jimmy Chesney,
There you
Kenny
go.
Buffett,
Okay.
wherever. I have no idea what's going to happen with them, but that was kind of where my head was.
I get it. Yeah, I did a little bit of work in Florida for a while, and when I was down there, I just kind of take walks on the beach and kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
None of them were good though. I'm sure yours are way
Mine
better.
are probably really stupid, but because they all have a sense of humor, they're very sarcastic, and so I'm like,
Sure.
I've got to do this in a way where I'm not making fun of something,
Right.
but that it's lighthearted and people are going to want to party or enjoy
Right.
their life or whatever.
Sure.
So we'll see what happens. But I've written a couple of songs via Zoom, which was interesting. And
I've heard from a lot of people that writing on Zoom was interesting. There was a learning curve to it.
Yeah.
Trying to get
a little latency there.
right,
and
exactly.
stuff. But it was a really good experience overall. I don't know. I feel like I have 150 songs that I haven't even demoed yet.
Right.
In my catalog, and I've narrowed it down to about 60 that need attention.
Mm-hmm.
So till I get those tended to, then I can get into more new stuff.
Well, you got a lot of work ahead of you.
So Matra-
I'm gonna come here.
Come on! You are welcome to.
Thank you. I'll come
This
here.
is an awesome
Thanks.
studio.
It is
It's
awesome.
a good. It promotes writing. So you spoke of Matresa Berg a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Were y'all friends? Are y'all friends? Do you
Yes.
write a lot? So You and Tequila.
Yeah.
How did that song come about?
Well, it's interesting because Matresa went to my high school. So she's 2 years older than I am. And my high school boyfriend was a year older than her. So she knew about him, which is so crazy because when she wrote Strawberry Wine, that's what that whole record was about.
Wow.
Okay, so I mean, fast
Like
forward.
her childhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was about her experience, but she was explaining, I think, everybody's experience, right? Which so brilliantly with Gary Harrison.
Yeah.
But we laugh about it because she had a crush on my boyfriend. You know, it was just like and her mother sang with my dad in the studio. Like, we remotely were around each other, but we weren't friends until way later. And I was in Nashville out of college and starting to write. And I was such a fan because she had records out.
Yeah.
And locally, she was like the bomb, and I went up to her in a restaurant and I said, I was so nervous. And I just said, I would love to write a song with you someday or something. You know, this is way before we had ever done anything together. And we did end up working together some, and I took Strawberry Wine and We Danced Anyway into Capitol on the same demo, and we put those on the record. So fast forward to 2002, and I was doing a record. I had left Capitol and was on Arista, and I wanted to write songs for that record. So we got together, and she had been at Harlan Howard, the great songwriter.
Yeah.
He had passed away, and she had been at his wake the night before and drank a bunch of tequila. And so when I showed up at her house and knocked on the door, she was like, she was not feeling too good.
Yeah, like tequila makes you do.
And we went in, and I was like doing the just because I was into Tracy Chapman sort of, and I just wanted to do something that was not very typical. And I said to her, she was talking about tequila, and I said, man, that stuff makes me crazy. It gets in my veins, and it's there forever. Like, it's there for a few days. Like, if I have tequila on a Tuesday, by Friday morning, I'll be okay. Like,
yeah.
So true.
it's so weird.
So
Nothing
true.
affects me like that except maybe a pampering when I can't come to. I don't know. But, anyway, and we were like, oh, wow. And we started and so I was still in California, and I had all those Mulholland, the California influence references. And we just started talking about comparing tequila to love and guys and girl talk around that. And that's how that happened.
What an amazing song.
Well, and so I put it on my record, I'm Just a Girl, and then went on tour with Kenney Chesney and Keith Urban. So I was on first, then Keith, and then Kenney. And every night they would come out and watch me do that song, that one song, and then they'd go get ready for their shows. And fast forward 10 years later, and Matresa had done a male version of it to pitch it around, and Kenney heard it, and he was like, he called me, and he said, this song got me through my divorce and a bunch of stuff when he had been in California.
Wow.
So it was just kind of, full circle. And he put it on his record, and then it was a single, and it just did so great. And we got to go back to the award, like the Grammys and the CMAs. It was a full decade.
And then getting to experience all that again.
Yes,
wow.
It was amazing.
Crazy.
So that experience, like, I had a song that I've had a couple other people record some of my stuff, but that was the first time that it was ever a chart topper.
Right.
And that one was like,
yes.
Just beyond.
It was, I can't even tell you what that felt like. That was just, and I'll hear it in a bar or somewhere, people will cover it.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, God, it just makes my day. Like, it just is amazing.
I mean, that feeling does have to be special because you get to experience that a lot, I'm sure.
Oh,
When you travel so much, you're hearing your songs all the time. I mean, does it get old?
No,
Even though that's your baby,
old.
you're like, that's my baby.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. I mean, I could just pinch myself that being a road kid and growing up in Nashville and knowing the shelf life of songs and artists and careers, I'm so blown away that I am still here with y'all, through all that we've all been through, that I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
We're so honored.
But just that God is so gracious to give us what he gives us, you know. And
Amen.
I mean, no matter what it is, but I just have such a grateful heart. I think he knows I have a grateful heart for what he's given me.
Yep.
And it's been wine and tequila. He knows my heart. So he knows that I don't do the tequila.
And he
but
still
the
loves
wine
you.
is like, yes, he loves me
Loves
anyway.
It loves you anyway.
That's right. It's the truth.
And we were talking about, you know, you doing a show here, you're doing 2 shows, you know, and I was asking Mom, I said, you know, how many other people have done that? We've had so many artists through here, and it's only a handful of them. And, you know, that's just something to be commended, you know. I'm just very honored. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. One other thing that was very, going back to his childhood, or the kids, you did also a song off of one of our favorite Disney movies.
What?
Anastasia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that one.
Yes, and it was Once Upon a December.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
That was great. So how did that come about?
Well, everybody asked me, why did you leave Nashville and go to California? And it was the timing of like all the success of everything, and I was getting hired to do. I played a truck stop waitress on King of the Hill.
Nice.
I did.
I missed that.
Like,
I'm so mad I missed that.
Yes, and I did. I just got asked because Hollywood is, you know, enamored with Nashville now for sure. Because the TV show Nashville like made it a global thing.
Right.
But at the time, it was just they were starting to get their toe in the water, and I'd had this musical theater background and all this stuff, so I started in college. Like, I'm, you know, Becky Thatcher and Tom Sawyer, whatever. But I started getting hired to come and do these little things. And one of them was to sing the song for this animated film, which was so cool.
That was
Oh man, I have a friend in Nashville named Anastasia who is like the heir of this Latvian king. Her great granddaddy's on the money or something. She is awesome. Anastasia, if you're seeing this, you know. So in my heart, it's like her movie. You know, I'm thinking it's about her family and all this.
Right.
But that was so fun because I got to go perform for the Academy, like for the Golden Globes luncheon, and it was nominated for, you know, that was like really high cotton.
Wow.
For me to be able to go and be a part of that whole thing. And it just started me into the film business. I've done about 5 movies, and some of those I produced a soundtrack and did the music supervision for, which is way too much work.
Anything you don't do?
I'm going to pick.
So now you have your own label?
Yes, I started because my daddy had Nugget Records in the 60s and 70s, and I started Little Nugget off of, you know,
That's
him.
awesome.
And, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I haven't done a great job with that, but I put out my own records at least.
Hey.
Well, there you go.
Someday when I slow down a little bit in my own ride, I would love, like my daddy, to sign a young person and, you know, partner with a big label because they need the big stuff.
Sure.
They need the big guns to make it all happen, but just to nurture them and mentor them, and that's what I want to. You
have that heart, you know, for sure.
You have that heart.
100%.
I can see it.
Because, like, you know, I lived a life where my dad would try. I had my own management, and I wanted to do it my way, and he would give me advice, and he could see things coming that I couldn't, and I learned a lot, and so I have done pretty much every facet of it.
Right.
So I just want to be able to help them skip any heartache they can, and
right.
make wise decisions and get the most, you know, mileage out of every choice they make, because that saves you a lot of missteps along the way.
Can imagine.
And I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad that I could do this, and it's going to be a great show tonight, and I cannot wait for that.
Thank you. We're gonna have
Thanks
fun.
for talking to us.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking me as I am. Hey, we'll get all dolled up.
Hey, our motto is It is what it is.
It is what it is. That's right.
Come as you are. So.
That's it. I need one of those T-shirts too.
We can get you. We can get you all the merch you want.
Guys, for Rita, Deana, and myself, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.